Chicago Bears select Caleb Williams, quarterback, Southern California.
What's up, Bears fans? Welcome back to another edition of the Willis Twin Towers podcast. We've got a big packed show tonight. There's a bunch of stuff to talk about. End of OT, or the end of minicamp, I should say, mandatory minicamp. Ben Johnson had a press conference yesterday. It was an impressive one again, in my opinion. And we'll talk about that a little bit. Some of the storylines. Obviously, there's going to be a break in action here as the players all go off for the summertime outside of like the rookies and whatnot. And again, we'll talk about that a little bit more too. But real quick, just a reminder, guys, as always, to please like the video and subscribe to the channel. There's a lot of great content here at the Bar Room. You can find us all on X or Twitter. I'm at _Jeff Willis. My partner here, Tim, is at Tim Willis24. And you can follow our executive producer at Barroom Network. That is Aldo Gandia, and he is the pod father. So without further ado, let's dig into it a little bit here, Tim. Any first thoughts you want to get into right off the bat before I kind of give my thoughts on some things from that press conference I wanted to talk about?
Can I share a cool story real quick before we get into all the football stuff? So Jeff hasn't even heard. I will. Jeff hasn't even heard this yet, so this is news to him as well. Riker's okay. So rewind real quick. Riker plays travel ball. My son Riker, my 11-year-old son, and he has not played rec ball in 3 or 4 years, I think, which is little league ball. It just took up too much time, and it was hard enough with travel, and the focus is obviously on travel. That's the priority. Well, this year we decided we were going to let him play rec ball again because he really wanted to. And I thought, okay, a little extra baseball. I mean, we already do it enough, but if he wants some extra baseball where he's relaxed, there's no pressure on him. It's just fun. I mean, it's not, he doesn't have to feel pressure in the moment. He can just go out there and do his thing. And last night was the last game. They made it to the championship game, and they won 9-0 in their championship game. And then last night, I get a phone call, and Riker made the All-Star team. So it's been a pretty cool experience for him, which wasn't a huge surprise to us because he was far and away one of the most dominant players in that league. But, you know, it's pretty cool. 12 kids. What's that?
Don't let him hear that.
I have not told him that part of it yet, but he knows. I mean, he could tell he's good enough. But in any case, it's pretty cool. 12 kids made it, and he was one of them. So only 3 kids from his team made it, so that was pretty cool. But in any case, him and his best friend from the team together, he also plays travel with him. They have both made it together, which was really cool for them. But cool little story. Jeff didn't know that, so I wanted to share that with you too, Jeff, because I know you can't stand Riker, but you love him. So in any case,
he's my namesake.
What's that?
I said he's my namesake. It's not that I can't say I love the kid. He just, he's named after me for a reason.
I'm not really sure what that reason was, but we did do that.
I was going to say one thing is for certain. Like, if I don't know if everybody feels the same way, but me personally, like if you made a clone of me, I would drive myself nuts. And Tim's son Riker reminds me a lot of myself in a lot of ways, and we can get on each other's nerves a little bit. Honestly, he's an 11-year-old, which is saying something. Yeah. In any case, it's kind of funny.
Dad, he's your brother. He won't leave me alone.
That sounds about right. He's a good kid. He's a smart kid. And I'm proud of him. That's good.
Real quick, I want to answer this. Aldo's asking is am I a clone of you or are you a clone of me? For the record, everybody, oldest by 8 minutes. So I would say that Jeff would be my clone.
I've already told you guys the story. If you've been on this
Nobody
podcast,
cares. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Nobody cares.
I've always been bigger and faster and stronger, so it doesn't really matter who is first, in my opinion. So that's fine with me. Anyways, there was another question here I wanted to post if I could find it. I can't remember where it went now, but it's okay. Anyways, it's good to see you guys all in here. A lot of the regulars in the chat, as always. I appreciate you guys being here, as always. So any questions you guys have, like always, feel free to throw them in the chat. We're going to talk some music later, like we have been lately, probably for the last 10 or 15 minutes or so in the off season. It's nice to do that. I feel like, and it seems like you guys appreciate it too. So I do want to do that a little bit. Speaking of going back to some Bears talk now, let's kind of dig into this a little bit, because there was a press conference I wanted to talk about from yesterday with Ben Johnson, and there were some players that were interviewed as well, but just that press conference from Johnson, it just kind of epitomized what we've seen from the Bears, or from him in the past several months since he's been hired now. So I just feel like, in summary, the things that he talks about are just it's refreshing. Refreshing is the word that keeps coming to my mind, because that's what, like, when I think about some of the past coaches of the Bears, and like they're just not their inability, their insistence on not giving away information that they don't have to give away. I understand why they think they shouldn't do that, but I mean, as a fan, it's going to be frustrating because you want to know why, of course. But also, it's like, do you really think you're giving yourself that much of a competitive disadvantage by telling the media something that is kind of already obvious in a lot of cases? So I say refreshing because, and I wrote this note down because I wanted to mention it to you guys. His pressers are refreshing. He's not afraid to answer questions honestly. He's not worried about that competitive advantage like I just talked about. It's like a here we are. This is what we are. Just beat us. And I love that about him. And I've always liked that, because when I was in high school, for instance, I've mentioned to you guys a lot of times, my high school wrestling team was really, really good. We were a state championship caliber team. Every year I was there, I think we placed third my freshman year. We got third again my sophomore year. And then we were runners up as a junior. And then when I transferred, they won state, unfortunately. So maybe I'm the part of the problem there. I
was just saying, what you're saying is they got better when you left.
maybe. So, and by the way, Aldo and Cliff, I see you guys talking about the Frampton Comes Alive album. I have it on vinyl. As a matter of fact, I love it. Do you feel like I do? That guitar solo in that song, Cliff, shit, there's about 5 of them. They're unbelievable. Unbelievable guitar solos. Peter Frampton is one of the most underrated guitar players of all time, but we'll talk about that later. So, anyways, Bears, backtrack. You guys are going to get me on a tangent with this shit. But in any case, like I said, Ben Johnson, the guy, just the things that come out of his mouth are just like, I'm surprised he's saying that right now, but okay, I like this, and it just, he's asked specific questions, about players and injuries and things. And he's not afraid to answer them. So I find it refreshing. The things I can think about off the top of my head, like Luther Burden's injury, he right away after, like, it wasn't this past press conference, but I think it was after rookie minicamp, he was asked about him, and he's just like, it's a soft tissue thing. We don't know when he's going to be back, kind of thing. But he'll be back at some point, whatever. And he wasn't concerned about it. So that, again, it's a refreshing kind of thing to not hear that in the past. And all of a sudden now we're getting a glimpse into what's actually happening. And again, a lot of times these things are kind of obvious. Like, we know a guy is hurt. That's why he's not practicing. But to get a glimpse into what's, the reality of the situation is nice sometimes. Another thing that happened was, I can't remember who the media member was. Reporter asked him about players that stood out in practice. And he asked it in the press conference the day before first, and he didn't answer. He said, give me a day to think about it. And then sure enough, he got asked again yesterday, and he said, "Okay, I'm glad you asked me. I didn't want to just give some names yesterday without thinking about it."
I believe it was Mark Carman that asked the question, if I'm not mistaken.
I think you're right, but I wasn't 100% sure, so I didn't want to throw out names. But in any case, he was asked about some guys that stood out. He named 4 players, and a couple of guys he named off were The first one was Dominique Robinson. And J2K, I'm sure you loved hearing that. I was a little surprised to hear that myself right away, but it tells me something. This is a guy that wasn't part of he wasn't drafted to be part of Dennis Allen's scheme. Okay. And again, the pads are not on yet. I cannot stress that enough. That's the biggest thing we have to remember here. There are no pads on yet. A lot of guys can be impressive rushing with speed off the edge without getting pads on and guys getting their hands on them for real. You know what I mean? So we'll have to wait and see. But the fact that he mentioned him a couple times, mentioned him as far as his, I think he said something about rush up field and his speed off the edge, I think was the other thing he mentioned, was impressive. And he said that he's put him up against left tackles in practice multiple times and he was doing well against the guys. So, that's good to hear. I mean, they obviously see something there or see a potential there. Again, like I said, the pads will be a big part of it. And he did mention his special teams value too. So that is kind of important. So, I'll be happy to be wrong about it because I mentioned several weeks ago that I'd be surprised if he actually made the 53 this time around. But, at this point, at this juncture, from what we're hearing about him, it wouldn't surprise me. So, I'll be happy to be wrong on that occasion because that means that he's doing something right and he's playing better. He's always been a decent run stopper, but he's just non-existent in the pass rush. He never really has been able to get off that first move. So, hopefully, again, he's improved upon that and he really is able to do that when the pads come on and really actually put some pressure on the quarterback. That'd be nice to see. But another guy he mentioned was Ruben Hippolyte. Ruben Hippolyte was the most improved guy he feels like from the time he got into where he is now. And that should say something here, guys. Everybody outside of the Bears basically has been talking about how the pick was a reach to take this guy in the fourth round. They looked at his speed and they said, oh, let's just take this guy. He's fast. Well, I don't know that that's necessarily the case because, Greg has talked about this multiple times. If you guys aren't familiar with Greg, he has a show here on the Bar Room. Gabriel Talks Football. He's a former scout, worked for 30 plus years in the NFL, worked for the Bears. He was their former scouting director. His show is on Monday mornings here at 11 a.m. Central Time. Thank you for that graphic, Aldo. But Greg has mentioned several times going back and watching his tape, the kid's pretty damn good. So, it's not a big surprise he was drafted in the fourth round. It's just the biggest surprise was because he wasn't invited to the combine, which was just an unfortunate circumstance for the kid. He probably should have been because if he was, I would be surprised if he actually still slid to the fourth round because everybody would have been able to see what he could do at that time. And also they would have probably taken him a little bit more seriously because let's face facts, if a guy's not invited to the combine, a lot of teams probably aren't going to see that kid as maybe not as quite of an important prospect unless they've really dug into him and watched the tape a lot on him. You know what I mean? So, which not every team does that. That's just the reality of it. Not every team does that. And that's why not every team is really, really good. So in any case, they did their work on him. They believe in the kid. It could work out. It might, if it doesn't work out, maybe, a lot of prognosticators will be right. But at the end of the day, they believe in the kid. And from what we've seen so far and heard about him, it's hard not to see. It's hard not to believe that at some point he's going to be a legitimate player for this team and a good player on the defense. So right now he's getting reps at Sam linebacker. I wouldn't be surprised to see him be that guy when they run base defense, to see him be plugged in there. He's been working at, I believe he's been working at the Will right now while Edwards is out too, or maybe the Mike. It's the Mike, I think, actually, while Edwards has been out. So, and he's looked good. So, again, he mentioned his head's been spinning a little bit because he's a young player, but he has, he's improved the most of anybody. And then he mentioned the two players on offense were Joel Wilson, who's kind of a journeyman player. He's been in the league for 3 years, been on like 5 different teams, pretty much a practice squad guy. But he has apparently made some good plays in practice, some nice catches in practice. He said 1 or 2 big ones in each one so far. But again, this is another case of like, we got to see what happens when the pads come on, when he has to pass block and run block and all that and see where he's at there. There's a reason this guy's bouncing around in the league, probably because he's not the best blocker and he's got to have that to get that value for that, ability to catch the ball to be, utilized because he's obviously not that great or he wouldn't be bouncing around, 5 different teams. So, we'll have to wait and see when that happens, but it's another guy that he mentioned and for a reason, he must have seen something there that's like, well, the kid must have a chance. So that was another guy. And then Monangai was the last one. He said the running back room, Kyle Monangai had looked good. He was impressed with how he had dug into things and really got into the playbook and learned everything and how he picked things up. So that's a good thing too. So, I mean, this is a guy that was drafted under his watch. So, he was, I don't want to say he was handpicked by Johnson, but, Johnson has to sign off and he's a head coach. It's got to be part of his vision too. So if they're going to draft a guy, he's got to say, hey, I like this. So, I think that was important to note that he mentioned all four of those guys. Again, when the pads come on, is going to be a big part of this. Monangai is going to make the team regardless. He's draft pick. And if it was a seventh round pick in a different year, I would say he's not necessarily going to make the team. It would just depend on how he plays throughout camp and everything. But in his case, I think his film was good enough in college, and they, the quote unquote need at running back was enough to where he's not going anywhere. He's a good enough player. He's going to make the roster. So, they keep three guys. He's one of those three. If they keep four, which they probably will, he's for sure one of those four. And I would assume Homer's the other one there. So anyways, I thought that was important to note. Tim, did you have anything you wanted to say about that particular note about those four guys he mentioned?
I thought it was a little bit, I kind of felt like some of that was just maybe trying to get a little extra out of some guys. I know he made the comment about Dom Rob, but let's face facts and reality here. Do we really think that he is going to push for a roster spot? Because I highly, highly doubt that. Now, he could show something that he hasn't shown thus far. Maybe something with Dennis Allen will bring the most out of him. I don't know. But I don't know. That one was kind of interesting. Maybe it was just to try to breed some competition. I'm not really sure. I mean, I'm sure he has been a little bit impressive for them. I don't doubt that. I'm sure he's given everything he's got and then some to try to not show off for the coaches, but you understand what I'm getting at there. The Hippolyte thing doesn't surprise me. The part that does surprise me with it is there was a lot of chatter in the draft that the Bears had reached for him. Excuse me. But at the same time, I understand it's not just the speed, though. This is what everybody keeps talking about. It's like the Bears wanted more speed, and they do. Absolutely. They did, obviously, and that's why they took him. But he's not just a fast linebacker. This guy can play. Go watch the tape. He reacts well. He can diagnose pretty quickly. He's a hitter. This guy can play. It's not like he's just some anomaly that he's just fast at the position. The guy can play, and that's why he was drafted in that spot. And I'm not sure if it's, just the media and some of the analysts that believe that he was a reach, but I don't think NFL circles thought that he was much of a reach there. But in any case, I'm excited to see what he can do. I don't think he's going to be a starter right off the bat unless he's starting at Sam, which that would kind of be the direction I think they're going. But I would like to. I want to see how his athleticism is going to stack up against some of these offensive players in this league, especially with all the speed that the NFL has now. The combine thing surprises me, though. He should have been invited to the combine just for the fact of his speed alone. He would have been the fastest linebacker in the draft. So I don't know. That was kind of confusing for me. But Monangai doesn't surprise me. I think this is somebody who relatively, I guess, unknown would be the word for Bears fans when he was drafted. And not a lot of people had heard of him. And it's because the hype wasn't quite as high on him because this running back class was so deep. And we all had our eyes on, the first 10 names, specifically the first 5 names, because those guys were in kind of their own little level above the rest. But I'm not surprised one bit that he is showing what he can do right now. And he's really showing the coaches that they made the right decision by drafting him. But Jeff, can you talk for just a second? I got to go take something for my throat. I'm having issues here. You're muted.
That's probably the first time I've done that in a while. But in any case, I can make about 10 different jokes from that, but I'll hold off on it. Anyways, I agree. I think it's like a lot of you guys are in here talking about. I think it was King Bookworld mentioned. Do we feel like this guy is the answer at head coach? I really feel like I finally do. I mean, I'm kind of starting to lean that way. I mean, again, I don't want to have too much hope, but it's just different. It's what we're seeing is different. The way he's handling things, and he's actually had legitimate success at the NFL level as a play caller in his past, and he clearly knows how to lead. He's got a proven defensive coordinator on his staff who has a history of legitimate defenses. He's got a running backs coach who has a history of high level running back play under his watch, who would have been a head coach. It would have been a offensive coordinator for a team outside of, Washington when they were terrible, if he'd have been able to interview better, supposedly. So the fact of the matter is they've got a damn good coaching staff. And yes, King, he answers the effing questions. He answers the questions in the press conference. He doesn't diddle around shit. He's not afraid to say, yeah, this is this and this is that. Okay. Because like I said before, there's no he doesn't fear this competitive disadvantage thing. It's he's just like, look, man, this is who we are. This is what we do. Beat us. This is what's going on with us. Beat us. And it's like, dude, that is a confidence that we have not seen from a head coach in a long damn time. And it's nice to see. It really is. Now, again,
it's not even just that he answers the questions. He doesn't answer the question with a non-answer that makes no sense. Flus, could you explain why DJ Moore walked off on the sideline? Well, guys, aliens wear purple pajamas. What? That doesn't even make any sense. It literally had nothing to do with what we asked you.
Weird ass ways with stuff.
That's what I'm saying.
What are you saying?
There were times where he would answer a question. I'm like, what is he talking about? What does this have to do with that at all? It has nothing to do with it. Not even remotely. And I see the comment Aldo makes Ben is really smart, but it's not even just smart. Like, he has a little bit of that arrogance to him. He's a little cocky. And, that's a confidence thing mostly, but Flus, you never got that sense from him. He just kind of was I think players could walk all over him. And it's not just players. It's probably in a lot of things in football. He just never had that moxie. He never had any of that. And I think it's pretty important for a coach to have that moxie. Pete Carroll is close to 80 years old, but that guy has unbelievable moxie and his team gets behind him. And, that's just part of it. You have to have those kind of things. And, I know I don't want to bring up Flus much because clearly we have talked about that ad nauseum with all the things we have dealt with the last several years, but it is such a breath of fresh air, as we've said, multiple times now on the show about how great he was, or how great he's been so far in the way he's handled business, the way he's handled interviews, the way he's handled press conferences, the way he's obviously handling practice, not afraid to get on guys like Cole Kmet, not afraid to get in Caleb Williams' face, which if you guys did not hear about that, there was a play in practice where Ben Johnson got in Caleb Williams' face, and he was asked about that in the press conference, and he basically said,
hang on, Tim, we got a clip of this. We got a clip of this. If you want to roll this for us,
let's roll it. If you can, although you don't mind rolling that clip.
I feel like there was a teaching moment with Caleb at the end of that last 7-on-7 where he went to the flat for Roshan. What were you was he supposed to go somewhere else with that? Did you see something?
No, he was late. So he needs to get there faster.
How is he responding in those sorts of moments?
Awesome. Yeah, he's doing a great job. He's very coachable, and it's like anything. It's a new play, and so we're just communicating what the expectations are, and we want to see it show up on the tape.
hang on. I'm gonna nerd out for a second. Okay, are you ready for this? Matt Eberflus and Ben Johnson. Matt Eberflus is Kakarot, and Ben Johnson is Vegeta.
Oh my God!
Am I wrong? Am I wrong? You've got the goofy happy go. Okay, for everybody that doesn't know, that is my Dragon Ball reference for the night. Jeff and I are huge Dragon Ball fans, but Kakarot, or better known as Goku on the show, is this happy-go-lucky, goofy guy, and Vegeta is the stern, I ain't messing around, I will give you the shortest answer possible, but I get my point across, and he just has that intensity in his eye.
Well, Tim, there's a big difference here that you're failing to realize. Goku wins always. He always wins.
With Vegeta's help only. That's the only way he wins.
Except for times when he beats Vegeta, which is literally every time they fight. So
no, that was in the very beginning. It hasn't happened in forever.
Guys, anybody who watches the show knows that I'm right about this and Tim is wrong.
No.
So it's okay.
In the beginning,
I see where you're coming from with your reference. I understand the point there, so I will give you that. But in any case, it's just, look, the whole thing I was going to say is like, he's going to just tell you flat out, like, look, he's late. You know, it was, and it's another thing too, in response to Eberflus there, he probably would have just been like, yeah, after he'd have let the play go and be like, hey, that was a nice play, nice pickup. Maybe try to get that out a little bit sooner next time. No, Ben Johnson don't play it like that. He's like, motherfucker, get back there. That was late. We're not doing it. And I don't know exactly what he said. That's just me being
well, it was just funny because there wasn't like a stutter. There wasn't she asked the question, she goes, he was late. Like it was like he was late. He's got to fix it. And it wasn't, because Flus would kind of like defend the guys too a lot. And Ben Johnson's just like, no, he was late. I'm calling him out right here, right now. They were afraid to call guys out before in front of the media or in front of whoever. He don't care. He's going to do it. He's going to do it right there. And, this is what these guys were preaching and begging for. They wanted the accountability, and they're getting it. They're getting it. And then the defensive players are making the same claims from Dennis Allen as the offensive players are saying from Ben Johnson. They have incredibly high expectations, and they want them to be. How many times have we heard players already say, we got to be on our P's and Q's? DJ Moore mentioned it in his press conference. I believe it was Andrew Billings that mentioned it being on the P's and Q's in his press conference. It's definitely something that's being mentioned over and over and over again because they are so in on the, what's the word everybody's talking about right now? Details. And that is one thing that has not been there, or in that accountability has not been there for those details either up until now. So there was a question. I think it was King Booker World that asked it, if it's finally okay to say that this is the guy. Guys, I'm doing it. I don't care. And look, I've been pretty consistent, I believe. Like when Flus was hired, I did not feel good about it. I remember telling Jeff, like, what on earth are we doing? They could have had their selection of guys and they chose this buffoon. Like, what are we doing? And I already hated the Colts. So I was like, we're really going to hire a Colts guy? The Colts suck. And again, when teams hire the hot coordinators, it's typically from almost always, actually, 99.9% of the time, winning teams. The Colts were not a winning team. They have not been a winning team. What made them think that a guy who has never won is going to come in here and be a winner just because he's a good coordinator? That means nothing. I never felt good about it to begin with. Matt Nagy, I want to say I had a good feeling about that in the beginning, but I still was hesitant and I didn't want to get my hopes up. Guys, this just feels so different. And I feel like I'm giving myself a false sense of hope, but at the same time, like, things are just being done the way that they're supposed to be done, the way that winning teams do things. The culture is being brought in a winning mentality, staying on the details, and the guys are happy with that. They love the way they're being coached right now. I just don't. I'm trying not to get my hopes incredibly high, but at the same time, there's no way that the floor can be any less than 8 wins for this team. It just can't be, because they're going to be better. And not only are they going to be better, the schedule is, I don't think it's all that bad, especially early on. I mean, yes, you've got Detroit and Minnesota early, but I don't see, I could very easily see a scenario where they start 5-0 on the season. And I don't think that is completely unrealistic.
It's not unreal. Like I said before, I have a tendency to like pump the brakes when we talk about this stuff, like win totals and stuff, and like who we're going to beat, and everything, because there are always scenarios where it's like, we can't believe this kind of thing happened. We always have hope and all that. And I don't want to piss on anybody's Cheerios or anything, but it's like at the same time, I do think that they will be much improved. I personally think we're going to be, like I said, I don't like to do like these win totals and stuff, but I would anticipate somewhere around like a 8 or 9 win team more so than like a playoff team right now. Hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully they surprise us. But at the same time, it's like, I just think they will be an improved team. And there were a lot of games that were winnable last year that they found a way to blow. So, I think just with the improvement in the coaching alone should help to correct some of those faults. I mean, and not just the head coach. I mean, just all around, like the time management and stuff. We got to remember, Dennis Allen's been a head coach before too. He's been around the block. I mean, he knows how to do this thing. He's not the best head coach in the world, but he's done it, and he's probably got some advice to help Ben along the way. So I think they're gonna be helpful to each other. And he's saying, like I said, the staff alone, I think the improvement there is going to help to like make just a lot of those games where they struggled last year. I feel like they'll have a little bit better outcome this year going along. So they have a tough schedule though. That's a big part of this. They have a real tough schedule. And again, this is every year is different. Some of these teams won't be as good as they were expected to be, and some of these teams will be a lot better than they were expected to be. So that's a part of it too. Ravi, I agree with your comment here too. The O-line will make a big difference. I mean, just think about it. You brought in an all-pro left guard, probably the best left guard in football right now. I mean, he's getting older, but he hasn't declined whatsoever. He got thrown in at left tackle last year in Kansas City, and it's not a position he's played, and he played pretty damn well throughout until he got to the Super Bowl and got roughed up a little bit. But, he got him there playing left tackle, which is not his position. He's, like I said, he's a guy who's a dominant player at left guard. So that alone, and the center play will be much improved. That's a big deal. They'll help a lot with the protections and whatnot. I don't expect to see Caleb sacked 68 fucking times again. That's a big deal. So, and again, he's going to be getting the ball out quicker. We just talked about, that clip where he's late on that throw, and Ben was all over him about it. They're not going to put up with that stuff. It's going to be, a lot of this stuff is going to get corrected. And it's, again, I've talked about this before. It's going to take some time. It ain't going to be perfect right away. Ben even said it in his press conference. He's like, look, we're not ready for prime time yet. And it's clear that they're not. And they're obviously playing prime time in week 1. So that's kind of interesting that he put it that way. But again, my point is that it's going to take them some time. They might not even be perfect right away. I don't expect them to be. So it'll take a little bit of time. Offenses usually takes them a little more time than defenses to really get going. But I do think they're going to be much improved, and they'll be better and more efficient right off the bat than they were last year at any point. I feel like just even right away, even just because again, there's just so much more like the synergy. And again, we talked about the details so many times, and they talk about and again, we hear this word details, but then when they start talking about what that means, how like they're going, who was it? I think it was Tyreek Stevenson put it like they're going into details on the details. That is saying something. They're really getting into these things and really harping on it. It's like somebody else, I can't remember who it was that worded it. One of the reporters, one of the Bears reporters said it was like an obsession with the details that they have. And look, that's going to, to me, result in a lot bigger difference in the outcomes of things and more efficiency right off the bat. So is there anything you want to add to that, Tim? Because I did want to mention one other thing real quick regards to what I'm seeing from some of these guys. And then there was some practice footage that I think we have some clips I want to get to as well.
There's a lot in the chat about the floor and ceiling of the team right now. And I did mention that I can honestly see that the floor would be 8 wins. I think realistically though, the floor has to be 7 wins. I just don't see a scenario where they would lose more than 10 games considering what they've got right now. They're going to be better on all facets of the game. They're going to be more competitive. I just don't see a scenario where you could lose more games when you have a much more competitive roster, a better coaching staff. And I understand things have to gel. Things have to work together. There is always the risk of injury. All of these things are true. But at the same time, even with that, better coach with less talent wins more games. I mean, we saw this. I hate to use the example, but Flus's first year, that roster was horrible. But at the same time, they were bought into Flus at the time, and they won 3 games. I'll answer this real quick. Carl's asking if I think the NFC North is good whatsoever. I think the NFC North is the best division in football. But what's the percent chance we go winless? I think the percent chance we go winless is about 0.1%. Because I think we're taking at least one from Green Bay. I think we're taking at least one from Minnesota. Minnesota is a good team, but I don't know what J.J. McCarthy is. I really don't. I know you're a Michigan fan, Carl, but is J.J. McCarthy a quarterback that the Vikings win because of, or they win with? And that's gonna be the interesting thing for me. But as far as Detroit goes too, I think we're taking at least one from Detroit. And here's the other part of that: they always play Detroit well. There's just something in there, and I'm telling you that. I think it's only fair that we look at this realistically, that Detroit is still the favorite in the division. But at the same time, I really feel like they're going to take a big step back. I don't think that they're going to be what they've been. I still think they're a playoff team. I'm not sure that they win the division this year, although they probably will. I think they're more of a 10-7 team, maybe an 11-win team, more so than like a 12 or 13-win team. I think they're going to fall off some. They're going. I really don't see a way that they don't. I hope you're right, Carl. I hope they are done forever, and I would be nothing more than happy for that, considering that we've heard nothing but these insufferable fans talking about how great this team is when they've had 70 years of losing football and they win 1 year and all of a sudden they're God's gift to earth. So I really hope that they reap what they sow. But I don't know. In all fairness, Carl, I could see us going 500 in the division. I think that's very realistic, if not better. So I don't know, Jeff.
I mean, I was just going to say, as far as Detroit's concerned, I don't want to say they're going to be the worst team in the division. Now, I do think there's going to be, I do think they're going to have a little bit of a drop off, though. Yeah, I don't think they're going to be the same team as they were. I mean, they lost a lot more than people are giving them credit for. It's like people are. I probably used the wrong wording there, but you guys know what I mean. I just think it's a big deal. They lost, their offensive coordinator, their defensive coordinator, and they were both play callers, by the way. Their head coach doesn't call plays. They've lost a lot of pieces from their personnel. Antoine Randall is one of the better wide receiver coaches in the league. He's gone. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Aaron Glenn, when he went to New York, he took one of their offensive coaches to be his coordinator there. Engstrand, I think, is his name, if I'm not mistaken. And then Frank Ragnow retiring. That's a big deal. I was going to mention that. Yeah, I mean, he's only 29. He's played 7 years. This guy's a really, really, really good player. He's been one of the better centers in the league for the better part of his career now. He's had some injury problems that he just decided to walk away now. And it's kind of unfortunate.
I think there's more to it than that. I think there's more to it than that.
There may or may not be. It's hard to say. But at the same time, it's like, look, some of these offensive linemen, I think they're realizing, these guys, they're like semi-collisions. Every single time the ball is snapped with these guys, they put their bodies through a ton. Not to mention, you see all this stuff coming out with the players, in the past who've had concussion histories and stuff, and how, the complications they've had with that. It's just something to think about for a lot of these guys. They got to think about their life after football. So when you make enough money, sometimes they probably just decide, look, I mean, I've done what I wanted to do. I want to maybe keep playing, but at this point, is it worth it kind of thing? And apparently he decided it wasn't worth it. So he did have a permanently broken toe, as Carl says, which is, I mean, it's shit, dude. If anybody's ever had a broken toe, you know how bad that hurts. Mm-hmm. So just to have one broken permanently and still play at a high level like he did, I mean, shit, man, that's a lot to go through. So
the rumor is right now that he was trying to get a pay raise because there are several centers that are paid higher than him now, and he's very obviously and clearly one of the top centers in the NFL, probably if not the best, one of the best. And the toe thing, he's probably looking at if I'm going to play on this thing, I want more money because I've earned it. And now Drew Dahlman is making more than me, hasn't even taken a single snap for the Bears yet, and he's making more money than I am. So I think that could be part of it. I think that's a fair assumption. We'll just see if that's truly the story or not, but I'm sure it'll come out. I don't think this was as random as people thought it was. I'm sure there have been conversations with Detroit's front office, and he made the decision because I think they probably didn't realize it was going to happen until after the draft, that it was a possibility until after the draft, or else they probably would have drafted someone there. But at the same time, I think they're going to be looking for a center now, very clearly. I don't know if they actually move a guard. I doubt it. They're going to want some experience.
They drafted the guard from Georgia, Tate Ratledge, and the word is, and this is just an assumption. I don't know what their actual plan is, but supposedly they're going to be trying him out as center. I don't know. I really don't know. But, again, this is a guy who hasn't played center in college. And I'm not saying he can't do it, but, he's going to be a rookie playing the position if that's the case. So, and again, it's like they're still a good team. They're still going to have a good they should have a pretty decent offensive line. So Penny Sewell is a really good player, and Taylor Decker is still a good player, and they've got good pieces along that front still. But Mr. Englewood makes a good point. Jared Goff will have to escape pressure now. That the very thing doing him in LA, not so much he'll face pressure now. I mean, but that's kind of been his calling card, right? Like you get pressure on him, and that's kind of the way to beat him. You get pressure in his face, you're going to rattle him a little bit, force him to get rid of the ball faster than he wants to. That's when he makes mistakes. So that is kind of, to me, that's kind of like I said, his calling card. That's how you beat the kid in the first place. So if you can get more pressure on him, and J2K says he doesn't see Ratledge as center, and like I said, it remains to be seen what happens. But I'm sure he's not going to walk in and be an all-pro center, right? So if he does play the position, he's going to have his ups and downs as well. So yeah, I do see a little bit of regression there from Detroit. And I think that I don't know that the Bears are going to go winless in the division. I do think that they'll be competitive. 500 is probably fair, Tim, in the division. I hope they'll do better than that. We'll have to wait and see. It depends on how they come out, how they play throughout the season. Injuries are going to be a big part of that too. But what I thought was interesting was in the press conference yesterday, somebody asked Ben Johnson about if they've got some, I think it was Herb Howard, and he always asks great questions. If like Luther Burden or Colston Loveland, if their injuries linger a little bit and they're not ready to go at the start of the season, like they would expect them to be, is it going to put a damper in like what he wants to do offensively to start the season off? I'm paraphrasing, but that's basically what he asked. And Johnson was like, no worries at all. Not at all. We've got the pieces. We've got the bullets is what he said. We're going to be fine. So, that just to me, the fact that injuries still could be a part of this, and offensive line injuries would be a real issue. Even though the depth I feel like is a lot better now than it has been, that's an area where you want to keep your guys healthy if you can. But the upside is there for sure. I think 500 is fair in the division, and I hope they'll be better than that. But one last thing I wanted to mention, and then we will talk a little bit about music, like I said before. But the thing that I keep noticing about these players when they come into their press conferences is, and a lot of you guys I'm sure have noticed the same thing, is they all look bigger, all of them. And it's not just like a little bit bigger. They all look significantly bigger. All of them. Rome even looked significantly bigger. When Dexter got up on the podium, he looked absolutely huge. And this is coming from we've talked about in the past couple of years how big this guy is already. But what I kind of think was interesting was, and I don't want to, I hate to kind of word it this way, but I can't really think of a better way to put it. Like when he first came to the Bears, he had a little bit of baby fat almost on him, but now it's like he is just solid. He looks like a grown man, a massive grown man now. And I feel like he's got his upside is through the roof. I think it was King Bookerworld that said he could see him getting around 8 sacks this year. Would not surprise me one bit. He had 19 quarterback hits last year with 6 sacks. So, I mean, I just think it's one of those things where you see this and, these guys, in the short amount of time that they've had with this staff, the fact that they've made that kind of difference is eye-popping to me. And I think that these guys, and it's obviously a concerted effort to do so, which leads me to believe that's part of what Ben Johnson wants and less of what the past regimes wanted. They might have wanted to focus more on speed and maybe not so much of that strength and size aspect. And these guys look bigger, but I don't think they're going to lack for speed at all. So I just think that the philosophy is a good one here. And it was Dexter, I believe, that somebody asked him about his size, and he was like, "I appreciate you noticing," and he gave a shout out to Coach Pierre, and I can't remember. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. I believe it's spelled NGO. I don't know if it's Ngo or No or Go. I don't know exactly, but he's the new head strength and conditioning coach. He was the assistant the past several years, and the other guy got fired, and he was promoted. So they look like they really do look like some massive improvement there, and I'm really interested to see just how well they hold up at the point of attack now in the trenches. I mean, I think it's going to be significantly improved, and they need that, especially along the defensive front, because they were pretty poor in the run game last year. So, I mean, what do you think, Tim? I like I said, I think these guys all look, even Rome, like I said, even Rome looks big. Like, I mean, he mentioned in his presser that the importance of the physicality aspect in the NFL and how he didn't realize the level of physicality he would need to play the position as far as like the blocking, his upper body strength, obviously was a big factor. I mean, he's a 50-50 ball guy, so he wants that kind of strength to make those plays, So I thought that was interesting to see. I mean, do you have any kind of other thoughts than I had as far as these guys and the way they look?
Well, clearly they are wanting these guys to bulk up and get bigger and stronger, especially on the defense. And this is something we've talked about. And this is something that was mentioned when they hired Dennis Allen, is that this is what he likes. He likes big, strong, athletic guys, especially on the defensive line. And, I thought Rome was big last year for a receiver, and he does look like he's bulked up a little bit. And if you guys have listened, they've been raving about this guy this year. Like, he's dialed in. I don't know if he had the option to show up next week for voluntary OTAs, but he's going. This is the guy they've been talking about. And I expect a big season out of him, and I expect him to really take a huge jump. And I really like Rome. I think Rome has every tool in the box, and I don't think it's all that necessary for him to be as fast with his size because of what they're going to ask him to do. And I think he's going to be plenty fast to do that. So a little bit of size to help him out at the point of attack is probably a good thing for him, and to be more physical at the line, whether he's blocking, whether he's trying to get some space for his route, if he's got press coverage or something, to maybe get off of that block. But in any case, it's interesting. It's interesting to see the different physiques this year coming in, and we'll see if that changes going into preseason, because I'm sure that there's a little bit of that. Let's lean up a little bit and get lean muscle mass. And then as the season goes on, you guys can really pound the food and start putting on some weight and just get stronger and stronger and stronger as the season wears on. But we'll see. And that Billings today, in my opinion, I think it was today, maybe it was yesterday, he had his press conference. He looked leaner to me. I don't know if it's just me, but did you notice that? I thought Billings, he was still big, but he looked leaner. Like, I mean, I didn't see him stand up, so maybe he's not as lean, but he looked leaner, at least in the chair. So I don't know. Did you notice that, or was that just me?
Who's that?
Andrew Billings.
No, not really. I mean, he still looks as big as he ever has to me. This guy was already insanely strong from the get-go. He was like a Texas powerlifting state champion, or state record holder or whatever it is. So, I mean, he's always been, and like we talked about in the past, when he got hurt last year, the defense, the run game especially, really, really, really suffered from his loss. And he was looking pretty damn good in the pass rush department last year too. So
yeah, he was.
I'm excited to see him back and healthy. And I think the defensive line has a pretty damn good, especially the interior, especially, I feel a hell of a lot better about now than I did in the past. But even the edge, I feel better about. And speaking of Dom Rob earlier, I saw you guys talking about him a little bit. There's not a whole lot of other guys now with Greg Hardy moving over. It looks like they're moving, or at least working him out at linebacker. If that's a permanent move for him, who's going to beat out Don Robb? Like you said here, J2K, I'm not sure. I mean, it's almost looking more and more like he is going to make it. So I'll be eating my past words for that, which again, I'd be happy to say that. I'll be happy to know that I did. So it's a good problem to have. So anyways, I
want to do this before we get into questions. So if you guys didn't hear Ben Johnson talk about this, they were working on some passing drills to offensive linemen. And he mentioned in his press conference, this is something we're going to do it once a year. So he was trying to get a feel to see who can do what. Aldo has a clip here. I'm going to have him play for you guys. This is Darnell Wright catching a pass. Look at the freak athleticism there. Coming back, this is an even better angle. Going back for the ball, jumping and one-handing it. He looks leaner to me. He looks a lot leaner to me.
He had like a little. It's like when he first ran that route. Look at this. Look at this shit, dude. I mean, like this is a big man doing that little move. I mean, I'm telling you, and it's the thing too. In the press conference, Ben Johnson was like, somebody asked him about the catch. He was like, "Yeah, I saw it. I'm telling you guys, Darnell Wright is going to catch some passes.
He's going to be the one that gets it 100%. He's probably going to run it for a touchdown because he's a freak athlete. This kid is nimble. And this was something they talked about going into the draft. And Jeff, if you don't remember, we were talking about this going into that draft. I was telling you how nimble this kid is. He is so good. He's like so light on his feet. And that's ridiculous. That is just absolutely insane. I can't even do that. And I'm 145 pounds. Like, it's just nuts. How do you do that at that size and that weight? But I will say he does look a lot leaner to me. He does look leaner, and he looks stronger. So maybe that's something that he worked on this offseason, was getting himself leaner and a little more athletic. But he's going to be the one. He is 100% going to be the one that catches the pass whenever they do that. And I wouldn't be surprised if Rome is the one to throw the touchdown pass. Rome's got a good arm.
He said Rome's going to throw. I wouldn't be surprised if Cole threw one too. You got to remember, this guy was a pitcher at Notre Dame, and he did play quarterback in high school, from what I understand, or at least some. Yep. I mean, he's a lefty too, so it might be a little surprise to some teams at first. So I'd be interested to see that. Aldo's comment here is pretty funny. True. Says J2K says Ozzie was a tight end in high school. Maybe he catches a pass or two at some point. It wouldn't surprise me. They have some athletes on his team now. I mean, we've seen that over. We know how
the quarterbacks had great hands on their play because they were doing it too.
They make some nice catches. Apparently,
was it Tyson that had a really good jump ball where he went? He had to come back for the ball too, and he went up for it. It was impressive.
Yeah, absolutely Tyson made a nice catch. Caleb had a nice one in stride from Duvernay.
Ben Johnson did say that Case Keenum had the catch of the day, or he had the best one of the quarterbacks. I didn't see his. I thought he just had like an over-the-shoulder catch, but maybe he did have a really good one. I didn't see it.
Who was that?
Ben Johnson said that about Case Keenum. He said he had one
apparently had one behind the back.
Behind the back, that's what he said.
There's no clip of it as far as I know, but and yes, D. Starin, Darnell was the guy who did the wide receiver workout by mistake before the draft.
Yep.
That was They put if you guys don't know, the story behind that was the Bears, when they did it, they wanted to do a pre-draft workout with like a private workout and all that, and they gave him the workout plan that they wanted him to go through before the workout, and he was doing the wide receiver drills because he didn't realize there was different drills in there for receivers and offensive linemen, and he was doing the receiver drills, I guess, and the receiver workouts to get in shape or whatever. So he was like way more prepared, way better shape than they expected him to be for the workout. But yeah,
maybe we move Darnell Wright to wide receiver and put Ozzie Trapillo on the right side.
I'm telling you, he's going to catch some passes. I really do. He's an athletic guy, man.
I bet he runs it back too. I bet he gets some yards. He looks fast.
King, you got a good point here too. Case Keenum didn't come here to mess around. He's been getting a significant amount of second team reps now. I mean, it's a real competition here between him and Tyson for that job. I'm going to be really, really interested to see how that works out, because I wouldn't be surprised to see. I mean, I've been saying from the beginning that I think Tyson's the backup, and that I wouldn't be surprised to see Case Keenum stay on the practice squad. I don't know if he wants to do that at this point in his career. It wouldn't shock me, but it also wouldn't surprise me if he was the backup. I really wouldn't. It really would not surprise me. But I mean, yeah, the quarterback room. And that reminds me real quick. I want to mention this too before we get to some of these questions. I'll make this as fast as possible. There was a story that Courtney Cronin wrote in ESPN, and it was a good article. You guys should read it if you haven't. She kind of dug into a little bit about Caleb in the film critique with him and how he didn't have anybody watching film with him. And she talked about how when Alex Smith was in Kansas City or was in San Francisco, for instance, they let Tim Rattay go, and he didn't have anybody around to kind of help him. And he was like just studying his own film and not really knowing what to look for. And he didn't really understand. I mean, he said he played like 3 different defenses in college. They only had like 20 plays they ran over and over and over again in his offense. So when he got the NFL, it was just like totally different. And so there's like a couple quotes I'll read real fast from this article, and you guys should check it out if you haven't, because it's really, really good. So the first one is from Alex Smith. He says, sometimes as a young quarterback, you don't know what to ask. You don't want to sound stupid, so you don't get the clarification you should. Patrick got to say, he's talking about Patrick Mahomes here in his first year under Alex Smith. He said, Patrick got to sit in the room when I was like, don't call that play, get it out of the game plan, or why are we doing this? Why don't we do it this way? And so that's a good point. For somebody like Case Keenum in the room to maybe question some things in the room, like, hey, in the past, I've kind of seen this or that or the other thing. It's like Caleb gets to see this now too. And it's like, well, hey, that's something to think about. And maybe the coach is the same thing. It's like, well, hey, now that's something to think about. And so now we're all part of this together and we're all learning and growing from it. I mean, how could that not be a positive? So to me, I think that was an interesting part of that excerpt. And another one too was from Matt Stafford, a quote from him. The coaches are doing so much to try and prepare for the next game or scout ahead. You got to lean on guys that are actually playing in those games and how they go about it and how they get ready. So that I think it is important to note that they brought in Case Keenum, not just, to potentially be the backup, which I think he could be. But again, I still think it's Tyson's job to lose this point, but it's important to have him there based on what he's doing, based on what he's helping with. And again, you can, as Aldo says, you can have a practice squad quarterback designated as the emergency third quarterback on the 53-man roster. So that's something to consider too. Maybe he's able to do that. And with this regime, it would not surprise me to see them place more of an emphasis on that than the past regime did, because it didn't happen very often. So anyways, I think there's a few questions in here we should get to real quick. It doesn't look like we're going to have a ton of time to talk about music, but that's okay. Maybe next week we'll dig into that a little bit more. But from King wants to know if we feel like we finally found the head coach. He does. We talked about this a little bit earlier. I'm feeling it's hard not to feel optimistic at this point. It really is. It's really hard not to, because everything he does so far is impressive. It really is. So, I mean, I'm optimistic about it. I really am. Okay, there are a couple music questions in here we can get to real quick. Let's try to answer them best of our ability. King wants to know if we ever heard the Rollins Band version of Ghost Rider. It's a cover of Suicide's version. Are you talking about Ghost Riders in the Sky? We're probably talking about a totally different song here, but Ghost Riders in the Sky is Johnny Cash and who did the remake to that? I can't think of it now for whatever reason. But that's a great song too. I don't know I don't know the versions that you're mentioning. I'll have to look those up. I'll definitely write those down, because I've been doing that for you guys lately and learning some good stuff myself out of that. So I will check them both out. And then, by the way, Maddie, Jay Gris, thank you for the donation here. That was last week. I'm sorry. I missed that for some reason. And then J2K asked last week, and I've been thinking about this a little bit since then, wanted to know what our favorite musician movie was. Not a musical, but a movie based on a band or musician. Really, like I said before, I haven't finished it. I was started to watch The Doors, and it's kind of hard to get into, but it is pretty good so far. Val Kilmer is just such a phenomenal actor. But really, the best one I've seen lately is probably Bohemian Rhapsody. Honestly,
pretty good.
So good, so good, and I feel like the way they portrayed the band was absolutely excellent. I mean, the guy who plays Brian May looks just fucking like him. The guy who plays the drummer looks just like him. They did a really good job with the guy who plays Freddie Mercury. I mean, they did a really, really good job with portraying the band in and of itself. And I thought it was a really good movie too. So I liked it a lot. What do you think, Tim? Do you have a personal favorite that you can think of off the top of your head?
I had mentioned The Dirt last week, and I really did like that one. That was a really good one. Bohemian Rhapsody was pretty good. I watched the Elton John one. I can't remember what it was called now. It was okay. It was all right. I think I was that Taron Egerton or something like that. That guy's name is that played him. That was okay. I'm trying to think of some other musician movies. Purple Rain, the movie was weird. Didn't really like it. It had Prince in it. The music was good, and obviously, but I didn't really care for the movie. It's a little different. If you guys have ever seen that, it's a very popular movie from the 80s. I just wasn't a big fan of it. Although I love Prince, as you guys all know that have heard this show before. You guys know how my feelings are, or what my feelings are on Prince, especially on the guitar. Gosh, Jeff, I don't know.
Cliff, I think you're thinking of Riders on the Storm, which is a phenomenal song.
Doors. Yeah, Riders in the Storm.
I don't know they did Riders in the Sky or Ghost Riders in the Sky. I don't think so. I mean, I'll have to look it up and see, but I think you're thinking of Riders on the Storm, which is just a phenomenal song. What I like so much about that song is like it literally sounds like a storm is happening, right? And obviously they have the thunder sound going on in the background at the beginning, but still like just the drum part, it's almost like a drizzling rain, you know, the way he plays his cymbal at the beginning, and just like the way the keyboard part, it's like it is like a little bit of rain and like a storm is coming. It's a really cool little intro to it's just a great song. The intro is awesome. I love that song, Riders on the Storm. So, and you know, honestly, I was just telling Tim this the other day, like when we were younger, we, you know, obviously we've been listening to rock music and stuff our whole lives, or we grew up with this kind of stuff because of our parents and our uncle and whatnot. But I remember I've never been a big Doors fan. And then like over the last couple of years, I've really been like, for whatever reason, I'd kind of been getting more into their stuff and listening to it more. And I've really grown an appreciation for just how good of a band they are. They're just fantastic musicians, and they have a pretty good catalog too. A lot of good songs and a lot of really underrated songs that I really like a lot. Touch Me is a great song. I just talked about Riders on the Storm. Love Her Madly. That whole album, LA Woman, that song, LA Woman, that's a really good album too. So Aldo thinks Doors is one of his top 10 all-time rock groups. And dude, I'm telling you, they are, I don't know if they're my top 10, but I love them. I really, really like them now that I've been digging into them more. So
yeah, clearly, because Jeff texted me earlier in this week just to tell me about how I need to listen to, like, I don't know who the Doors are and I don't know their music.
I know you do, but what I mean is you need to like really, you know what I mean when I say like you need to listen to more. You have to like really sit down, focus on the music that you're listening to.
You really think that I'm the type of person that doesn't do that when I listen to music?
Do it, man. You just got to. And I don't know that
I do. Just listen, I do. But just because you like them that way doesn't mean everybody likes them that way. I like the Doors. I'm just not like on them like you are. I'm just
don't ever do that again. But anyways, that was yeah, I do like the Doors. Holy God, Tim. So what DJ says Obama, Sid and Nancy, although it wasn't about the band. I'm not sure what that is.
There was
Obama.
I saw the Walk the Line movie a while back, the one about Johnny Cash. That was pretty good, but it's been a while since. I think it's Joaquin Phoenix that plays Johnny Cash, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Joaquin Phoenix, yeah.
It was okay.
I haven't actually seen that movie. I need to watch it though.
It's been a while since I've seen it, but it was pretty good.
But, anyhow, Cliff says one band he loved as a kid was the Runaways, Joan Jett, Sherry Curry, etc. First girl band that could rock hard. Yeah, I like Joan Jett a little bit. Some of her stuff is a little kind of like a little too like radio streamy poppy to me, so I'm not like a huge fan. But some of her stuff is pretty good. Get On Up.
That was pretty good. I did see that one. It was pretty good.
I haven't seen that movie. I need to. I love James Brown. He's got a lot of good stuff.
Me too.
I do need to check that movie out. Buena Vista Social Club. I'll have to check that out too, J2K. Search for Sugar Man, he says. I'll do that. thank you guys for reminding me of this stuff. It always gives me something to look for like next week to talk about too. So, and like I said, I love learning new stuff myself to listen to. How many of you guys actually went out and listened to Screaming in the Night by Crocus after I mentioned it last week? That's what I want to know. Because I'm telling you guys, that is some good shit there.
It is.
But anyways, like I said, we're out of time here. We could talk about music for days with you guys, but we'll definitely check up and get caught up on some.
We need to set aside 1 week here in the summer where we just talk about music the whole episode,
like
because it's going to be a little bit here in a couple weeks when they're off for the summer. There's not going to be a lot of Bears news, so here in the next couple weeks, maybe we can do that.
We'll figure something out one way or the other, but it'll be a good time. I know you guys like to talk about it too, because you're always in here jumping along with us and throwing us, either suggestions or asking questions about what we think and stuff. So it's always awesome to do. And we'll, like I said, I'll look into some of this stuff and I'll give you my thoughts next week for sure. Mr. Englewood, please, I'm going to give you guys our email address like I always do. It's willistwintowerspodcast@gmail.com. Feel free to send me any suggestions, any questions you guys have for us on the show. I want to look up some more of these jazz drummers that you mentioned last week, Mr. Englewood. I did look up one, and for the life of me, I cannot think of his name now. But he was a famous one who played with several bands in studios, or several famous musicians in studios. Yep. So I know he's good. But anyways, I want to look into more of those. So feel free to send us an email, guys, and I'll get into all the stuff we can for you next week or any week whenever we get stuff. So Foster mentions Love Her Madly, Texas Radio, LA Woman. And like I said, People Are Strange, great song too. Break On Through, great song. Roadhouse Blues, all these. Hello, I Love You. I'm named like 4 of those myself, but you named off a bunch of them too. Just great songs. They have such a good catalog. And like I said, LA Woman was a great album too. And there's about 2 or 3 other ones that you've got songs from in there as well, Foster. So absolutely great stuff. Love the Doors. And I've been listening to them more and more lately. So I like that you guys appreciate them as well. So I need to get a Doors shirt one of these days. Maybe I'll get the LA Woman.
Had one.
No, I don't have a Doors shirt. Maybe like I said, maybe I get one with LA Woman album on it. That'd be pretty cool. So anyhow, guys, we're out of time here, but we appreciate being here as always. Like I said, feel free to send us an email anytime, willistwintowerspodcast@gmail.com. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. You can follow us all at Extra Twitter. I'm @_Jeff Willis. Tim here is @TimWillis24, and you can find our executive producer, Aldo Gandia. He is @Barroom Network, and we have content going on here all throughout the week. So feel free to check it all out, guys. And until next week, we'll see you. Bear down.
Da Bears.
New and mightier foes will arise. New adventures will begin. And Goku and his fellow warriors will be ready. Until then, we bid you farewell.
The Willis Twin Towers podcast is a Barroom Network production. Jeff and Tim Willis are the co-hosts and co-producers. Aldo Gandia is executive producer. Music is licensed from Pond 5. Any copyrighted material used was done under the Fair Use Doctrine for commentary, criticism, and informative purposes. All of our programming is available in audio-only format by subscribing to the Barroom Network wherever you download podcasts. Videos are archived on YouTube.